Hi, this is Jeremy with Fundamental Tennis. In today's video, we're going to talk about 4 common myths about doubles strategy, specifically where you should be on the court in a given situation. These myths are commonly believed by most coaches and many players as well. The first myth we're going to go over is when you and your partner are both in a one-up, one-back formation and the opposing team is also in a one-up, one-back formation. So, if you are the baseliner and you send the ball cross-court to the opposing baseliner, let's assume that you're not going to go to the net here. Where should you go as the baseliner if you're not going to the net? So where should you go left and right? Where is your left-right movement? Should you recover here? Is it more here? Is it somewhere else? Most people think that they're supposed to recover in the middle of their half of the court that they're primarily covering, which in this case right now, this person is covering the deuce side. Now, that seems to make sense to many people because, you want to be in the middle of your opponent's possible angles of reply. And if you're covering this half of the court, that seems to make sense. But you did not hit the ball down the line, which in that case you would be in the right spot. You instead hit it cross court, which is the most common shot selection as the baseliner for all levels, is to hit it cross court to the opposing baseliner. So the reason you don't want to be in the middle of your half is because that's not the middle of your opponent's possible angles of reply. So just like when you're at the net, you want to move with the ball. The reason being, you want to move with the ball because you want to be in the middle of your opponent's possible angles of reply to give yourself the best chance to at least get your racket on the next ball. So, you actually do not move with the ball as the baseliner when you hit the ball cross court to the opposing baseliner because you're actually putting yourself away from where the ball is going to go to if it does come back to your half. Now, let me explain. Again, the middle of the half that you're covering is not the middle of where the opponent's possible shots are. So if the player hits the ball back cross court, their possible shots are this, about here. So as you can see, you are not in position to receive that player's ball, okay? A lot of people go here because, again, it seems to make sense to be in the middle of the half that you're covering. Also, I think people think they're supposed to move with the ball. Again, you don't move with the ball as the baseliner. It's totally different than when you're at the net. You generally want to move with the ball. So the correct place to be is, of course, in the middle of your opponent's possible angles of reply. And that is not the middle of your half. It's the middle of the opponent's possible shots that they can hit, which is behind the singles line. Now, this is true for when you're playing the deuce side or the ad side. Again, this is in a one-up, one-back formation when you as the baseliner hit it to the opposing baseliner. Now, if you prefer to hit more forehands or backhands, then you could go a step or so in either direction. However, again, you're going to get burned a lot by this kind of angle shot here if you are standing way too far towards the middle, okay? So remember, you don't want to be in the middle of the half that you're covering. You want to be in the middle of the opponent's possible shots of reply, which is not the middle of your half. It's actually behind the singles line. I almost forgot, if we stay on myth number 1 for just a second. If you are the baseliner, the more you hit an angle cross court, or the more angle you create cross court, the more you're going to recover towards the outside of the court. So if this player hits a typical directional cross court, they're going to be behind the singles line. However, if they hit a really good angle that brings this opposing baseliner off of the court, then this player is going to recover even farther to the outside of the court, okay? So it's really the opposite of when you're at the net, you move at the ball. As the baseliner, if you hit it cross court, you move opposite of the ball. So the farther it goes cross court, the more you recover to the outside of the court. Again, that's to be in the middle of the opponent's possible angles of reply. Now, myth number 2, this is one of my favorites. You cover your half of the court, and I cover my half, right? This is commonly believed, especially among lower levels, that we're talking about one up, one back formation right now. Again, the most common formation, that is. This player thinks that they should cover this half, and this player thinks that they should cover this half of the court. Now, I think many players, and certainly all coaches, are aware that this is not what you should cover, okay? However, I think most players don't understand exactly what they should cover, so I want to talk about that right now. So, instead of this player covering this half, and this player covers this half, I'm going to show you the correct area to cover as the net player and the baseliner. I'm going to draw it down here. So if we draw a line from the net post to where the baseline and doubles line connect, that is the dividing line that determines what the net player covers and what the baseliner covers. So the side of the line that's closest to the net is, of course, the net player's half that they cover. So you do cover about half of the court, but it's not this half of the dividing line. It's a diagonal dividing line, again, from the corner of the court to the net post, okay? So the back half is going to be the baseliner side, obviously. Again, this is what you cover. Baseliner covers this, net player covers this. So, for example, if the opposing baseliner hits a lob that lands here, this player's got to run over and take that ball, okay? Notice that's on their side of the half that they're supposed to cover. Now, if the baseliner hits a short shot over here, like a drop shot, then this player at the net will run across and grab that ball. So, this is what the net player covers, and the back half is what the baseliner covers. But it's not half the court in terms of this line, it's actually this line, okay? So when you go on the court next time, find the net post, draw an imaginary line in your head from the net post to where the baseline and doubles line connect, and you will find exactly what you should cover. It's so important to know exactly what to cover, and then you won't have that confusion and miscommunication between you and your partner. Myth number 3. When you and your partner are both at the net, or you're both at the baseline, and the ball goes down the center of the court in between you and your partner, the forehand player should take that shot. That is a huge myth. So if you and I are a team and we're both at the net, and the ball goes halfway between you and me down the center of the court, the forehand player should take it. The person whom has a forehand for that shot should take the ball. That is a big myth, and let me explain why and give you a solution to know whose ball it actually is. So let's say that you and your partner are both at the net, and the opponents are in a one up, one back formation. If this baseliner here hits it down the center, okay, let's imagine that my line is perfectly in between you and your partner. The ball is coming from cross court, therefore it's traveling away from this player and towards this player, okay? So if this player has a forehand and they try to go for the ball, it's more difficult or farther away as opposed to if this player goes for the ball, because again, the ball is traveling away from this player and it's traveling to this player. So if the ball is literally halfway between you and your partner, whether you're both at the net or both at the baseline, the cross-court player from which the ball came from should take that ball, okay? So again, this player hits it cross-court, while this player hits it down the center between you and your partner. The ball is traveling away from this player. The ball is going towards this player, because remember, the ball's not coming from right here, halfway between the players. It's coming from this side, so to this team's left side, okay? So again, it's not forehand or backhand, or especially be confusing if there's a righty and lefty. That could be confusing. Now, obviously, if the ball is slightly closer to this player, okay, then this player would take it, regardless of if it's their forehand or backhand. And if the ball is slightly closer to this player, then they would of course take it whether it's their forehand or backhand. So it's not about if it's your forehand, okay? That's not the deciding factor on whose ball it is. If the ball goes between you and your partner, it's the player cross court from where the ball came from. In this instance, it's this player. That's the player that takes that ball. The only time where the forehand rule could be true is if the ball comes from the center of the court to the center of the court, which is incredibly rare, especially in doubles. So again, don't think forehand, think, is this ball traveling away from me or towards me? And then you'll know whose ball it is. Myth number 4. In this myth, you'll find your team in a one-up, one-back formation. I have the net player here in the center of the service box, which is typically about where you should be when the opposing baseliner is hitting the ball. Now, if the opposing baseliner hits the ball cross court, in which you cannot get to that ball, so the ball clears you and goes to your partner at the baseline, where should this player go as the net player when your partner at the baseline is about to hit the ball? This is highly debated among coaches when teaching positioning and doubles, and I'm going to show you what many coaches teach, what I prefer to do, and the reason why I think it is the best solution in terms of positioning. So most coaches, or at least many coaches, will teach when your partner is receiving the ball to go here to cover the center of the court, which I totally agree with. However, you don't just move left and right, or recovery, or your positioning in doubles in any situation is not just left and right movement, it's also north and south. So if you move to the center of the court, but you don't back up to here, which is where I teach my players to go to the inside corner of their service box when their partner is hitting. The reason being is if your partner hits it a weak ball to the opposing net player, and you are in the center of the court but close to the net, then you have very little time to react. And this is especially a problem if you don't have quick hands. So again, you don't know where your partner's going to hit the ball. Even the professionals accidentally hit the ball towards the net player. So if your partner hits the net player and you're in the center of the court, good. But you also need to be back to give yourself some time to react to the ball. Because generally when your partner hits the net player, this net player very often will have a put-away shot. And where do they hit that put-away? To the center of the court, hence why you should be in the center of the court. But I'm saying, don't just go to the center. You should drop back towards the inside corner of the box. So you're still covering the center of the court, but you're farther back or farther from this player, so you buy time, you have the time to react, and especially for a safety thing, you don't want to get hit by the ball. So again, when the ball goes past you as the net player goes to your partner, instead of just going to the center, or certainly you don't want to stay in the same spot, you're going to drop back about 2 steps towards the inside corner of the service box. Again, I'm Jeremy with Fundamental Tennis. I hope you found great value in watching this video. I would love to hear from you. Give me a comment, a question. Let me know if you thought this was helpful. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.